Good morning. Today we're going to be continuing to work with the book that we read yesterday, which is Ye Shen, A Cinderella Story from China, as retold by Eileen Louie and illustrated by Ed Young. Today, this group in particular is going to be working on sorting sentences. Then you are going to be using a spinner to answer questions about the story, and everyone in your group will go at least twice. And then as a group, you're all going to choose one new vocabulary word to learn, and for each vocabulary word, you're going to complete a Frayer model, and you are allowed to help each other on that. But first, you're going to take these sentences that I have here, and then you're going to sort them into the correct order. So right now, they're not in the correct order. So go ahead and cut them out of your sheet, and as soon as they're cut out, sort them, and I'll be back in a few minutes to take you on to the next step. Alright, so now that you're done sorting and you guys have made sure that all of your answers are correct, as a group you look through the book and made sure they're in the right order, you're going to use your story spinner and you're going to go in a circle and you're going to answer questions about the story. So what you need to do is take your spinner and you're just going to spin it, whoop, you're going to spin it, and then whatever it lands on with the spinner that you guys have, you're going to answer that question in front of your group. If you get the question incorrect, then you and your whole group need to look through your physical copy of the book and you need to find the correct answer to the question. So remember, everyone in the group has to spin the spinner and answer a question at least 2 times before you move on to the next step. So let me know when everyone has answered at least 2 questions and I will be back to move you on to the third step. Alright, so you guys have all answered the question at least twice. How many did you get right? Did you do a good job, do you think? Awesome. So next what you're going to do is, again, look through your physical copy of the book as a group and pick out one vocabulary word for each member of your group. Once everyone in the group has a vocabulary word that they want to work on, you're going to fill in Frayer models with that word. So right here in the presentation, we have a blank Frayer model. And right here, I have one filled in with a sample word. So my word was feline, and you put the word in the middle. And then as you can see from the blank model on the screen, you have to put the definition, the characteristics of your word, examples of the word, and then non-examples of the word. So remember, everyone in the group gets one word, and every word gets one Frayer model. And the group can work as a team to fill out all the Frayer models, because that's probably the only way you're going to get done in time for centers. So go ahead, finish up your Frayer models, and do your best to get done before the end of centers. Alright, so I chose these activities for my low-level learners because they do relate to the standards that I chose for them pretty well. So our first standard about recounting stories and determining the central message, lesson, or moral are addressed in the sequencing activity in which they sort the sentences. And they are also addressed in the questions that are on the spinner, questions that ask things such as what is the moral of the story, what happens in the beginning of the story, what happens in the middle of the story and at the end of the story, and that kind of forces them in a roundabout way to retell the story in their own words. There is vocabulary acquisition and practice when it comes to the Frayer models, and lower level students do need some more help than other students with building and expanding their vocabulary and giving them more words to work with in their little pool of knowledge inside their beautiful little brains. And demonstrating the commands of the conventions of standard English capitalization, punctuation, and spelling when writing is also actually addressed in the Frayer model writing activity, because they have to use a complete sentence for the definition, and then when they're giving examples, they already know that they should be spelling their words correctly in their examples and non-examples. So again, this is good for low-level learners in particular because of the cooperative learning. It offers support, and it works well with the scaffolding because it's like the next step of releasing responsibility to the students. So, you know, arguably the teacher right before this center step would still be helping the students through all of their problems. But in this case, you are releasing some responsibility and allowing them to use the strategies for themselves, but in a group rather than completely individually. So it's like an intermediate step between releasing responsibility completely and the teacher still helping them through all of their problems. It also offers vocab practice, which again is important for your low-level learners, and a review of the story, because reviews are also more helpful for low-level learners and help them to really be able to comprehend the stories that they are reading. So the outside sources that I did use one page in particular from our textbook, which was page 182. This page was one that described scaffolding, and it kind of explained how it works in the classroom. So in scaffolding, you release responsibility and let them use learned strategies. And in this case, like I said earlier, I release them to do it as a group, not individually, because the low-level learners need a little bit slower of a release of responsibility than other students when it comes to scaffolding in the classroom. And I have this article, this article right here about cooperative learning. It shows the good ways that you should do cooperative learning. It shows the qualities that it should have, which includes positive interdependence, meaning the students all have to rely on each other to get a good grade, and there's group accountability. There also needs to be individual accountability, meaning that if one student doesn't participate, the other students can't just make up for that student. Their points will go down unless all students cooperate. There must be face-to-face action, appropriate use of collaborative skills, and group processing at the end. I did not put in any group processing in this particular activity because I didn't think there would be enough time, but I will make sure to do that in other examples of cooperative learning in the future. So this article further down also explains, here we go, research support for cooperative learning. So this study actually proves that it gives students better attitudes and better performance when it comes to things such as knowledge acquisition, retention, accuracy, creativity and problem solving, and higher level reasoning. So that is another really good reason that cooperative learning is good for your lower level students, because it can really help build them up faster than a lot of other techniques. This is the rubric for this low-level learning center. So I have 5 categories on the left, and each of those categories is worth up to 20 points. The story sequencing and participation in particular are related to our main standard, which is retelling the story and determining the central message. Cooperation is good for the cooperative learning centers. It holds them accountable for actually doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, so that they bring the grade up for their whole team and they don't think selfishly. That's the same for following instructions. The instructions are to make sure that they are doing their work. The completeness category is there to make sure that students have more of an incentive to help each other, because although they do all have one model to complete, if they finish theirs and then let other students struggle with theirs, their whole grade's going to go down. And then grammar, it is important, even with your low-level students, to not let them get into bad habits, such as not capitalizing and not spelling just because you're more worried about other aspects of their writing. So it is still important, even with your low-level students, to focus on not allowing them to develop bad habits in the classroom.